Hey there, welcome to SaaS Unbound, brought to you by saas.group. I'm your host, Anna Nadeina, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. And today with me is Andreu Iglesias, CEO of the SaaS Institute. The SaaS Institute helps SaaS companies streamline their sales processes and develop their sales strategies. So we are here to learn how to get there, how to get the sales that you always wanted. Hi, Andrew. It's great to see you here.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for the intro. Glad to be here.
Well, that's perfect. Well, I always say, it's a podcast for founders and experts, but you're actually the first one that is not a founder, that is an expert, a CEO. And I think it's great to start with you because you have the knowledge that every founder wants, how to do the sales, because the development of software has been simplified over the last 10 years so much, but no one has really solved the problem of marketing and selling the product. So here you go. The stage is yours. If we could get a bit of a background from you first, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, indeed. The sales problem is a recurring problem. I think it's always been like that, right? If you have a great product, but you don't have no customers, then you're in a bit of a pickle. So we see this problem very recurrent, right? So where do we start for my story? Okay, indeed, I am not the founder of a company. I joined the company a bit later. So what about my story? I studied engineering in Spain and France, and I at some point in Spain is very focused on like working in a factory, in a laboratory, very technical. But in France, most of people go to management or business positions, right? So that's when I work with a couple like very big corporations, and I discovered that I really wanted to go a bit deeper in this part of businesses. So I joined a startup, a very early stage. I think we're less than 10 people in Berlin. Acclamio, referral marketing, great atmosphere, great moment to join Berlin 2015. Amazing. And from there, I joined to grow the international markets, right? The company was a bit established, just hit a product market fit in Germany, and they want to grow internationally. And then we did a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes and learning by doing. And I grew with the company until I managed all the part of our sales operations. And then I found that it was a very interesting topic, right? That I was not the only one. I get in contact with the SaaS Institute at the time, and shortly after, I saw that this was an opportunity. They wanted me to join the team, and then I joined them, right? So the interesting thing here is like I suffer from this problem firsthand, and then I like the light bulb came. It's like, well, there's a better way of doing it. There's not only like some salespeople trying to improvise, trying to make their magic and work their soft skills, but actually there's a system behind it.
Okay. All right, and hopefully we get to at least get a sneak peek on the system today. So great, and I would love to also touch on that a little bit, like you transitioning into a startup as a CEO, and at this podcast, even there are some founders that the companies got acquired, and they had to step down as founders. So we hear their side of the story a lot, like how do you deal with maybe a bit of a personality crisis, like how do you handle getting all these operational documents to another person. So basically, how do you give your baby away to another human being? So we never hear a story from the other side. So how do you take it? How do you maintain the culture, or like how do you make sure that you and the founders are aligned?
Yeah, it's a great question. And in my case, this happened just when COVID hit. So I joined the company, and 1 week later, the whole thing came down. So it was a very interesting time, right? But I would say what happened was that there was a very clear objectives. There's a very clear methodology that we wanted to follow. but then things changed, right? So first things I would say, there was like a lot of confidence from the beginning. So they really trusted me. They looked for me. They kind of headhunt me. No, we worked a little bit in the past in a project, and I felt like there was a lot of confidence. So okay, you can do this. You are now in charge. Do whatever you feel necessary, right? Another thing I would say is like transparency. I don't really like to brag so much, right? Even sometimes it goes against me when you have to talk to customers and say all the things that you do badly. It's not great. But this involves also a lot of transparency. So all the mistakes are done, all the goals are not hit, all the problems that I have with customers or with the organization was very good communicated as well, right? And then there was given the circumstances, what happened is the founders moved to, so they started with the consultancy. There was some changes in the company. Some people left, also COVID. So there was like a big restructuring. So the headcount not only was shorter, but a lot of them moved to the software that the Bluebirds that they developed at that point, right? And then they're still handling it. Mm-hmm. And so basically what happened is like the founders moved to take care of the startup, like where they had funding and they had most of the workforce as well. So also was I would say a lack of time. So there was bigger fish to fry. You have investors behind you, and a consultancy, so to say, it's much less cash intensive. So a startup, it's burning cash all the time. A consultancy, we have the advantage of being on the other side, right? We don't have this problem. We have to be cash positive. So that's also a relief for them as long as this happened. So as long as we were doing good economically, there was nothing to worry. And I would say the last point as well is the feedback of the market, the feedback of the customers and the company. So they were also checking that everything was all right. Luckily, I tried to make sure also the conditions were complicated, so there was not much acquisition. So it was critical that the customers were happy, and let's say the few projects I had at the time were done properly, and that's what happened. They checked with the customers. Customers were very happy. The team was also working all right. So that was, I think, all the levers were aligned. But I would say like a vote of confidence and transparency and giving the space and time to do it was key for me.
Right. Oh, I loved how you said that, even if we didn't have many customers, it had to be done properly. It's like, imagine you're a performer, right? You're performing a service, right? So no matter how many people are in the concert hall, you still have to do your best. So that's perfect. I love the approach. Okay, well, thank you for a bit of a backstory. And let's get to the good stuff. So spill the beans. First of all, probably, you were talking about a lot of mistakes, and probably people are coming to you not from the very beginning, right? It's not like I want to build a business. I come to you and, I say, Andreu, how do I do the sales? People probably come at a bit of a later stage, right? So when something is not working or something is not done right. So what are the most common mistakes that people are coming to you with, and what are SaaS businesses lacking? Something that you see as a trend.
Okay, so I think I have a long list, so I try to get to the most interesting points, right? But so to give a bit of context, right? We work mostly with B2B companies, so the sales need a human behind them, right? It's a high enough ticket. We can talk about numbers later if you want. And also we work in relatively early stages. So let's say pre-Series B, normally pre-Series A. So typically it's a small team, maybe 10 people, maybe 20 people, maybe 50 people, that they somehow hit product market fit. So they have a sign that the market is going well. They had some network, they had some beta version that works pretty well. And now is the time to scale, right? So there is several things that get on the way. For me, and what I see that most founders or head of sales or the responsible of scaling the company is struggling with is to say no to those markets that don't fit, right? So As a founder, you have a nice product, you have a big problem that you want to solve in the world, and you can say, okay, my product could help virtually anyone or any company that this and fits this condition. But this condition sometimes is very broad. So you have a bunch of different markets, you have a big insurance companies, you have a middle, maybe consultancy agencies, you have a small restaurants. You can say, yeah, my I don't know, my emailing service or my cybersecurity or my HR tool could help anyone. And they don't focus on neither of those. They try to take a bit of everything, which as a founder, you have to be aware. You have to listen to the market. Sometimes people request information. No, you get some inbound leads from different sources, but this is not a good strategy for the sales team. Normally, when it's a small sales team, if you can have a one team dedicated to everything, it's big company problems, but not in that stage.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So that's one, and let's get to maybe a bit of an earlier stages companies. So, and I don't want to steal the business, but what to do if you don't have a sales team, or maybe you have a sales team, but you don't really want to end up asking someone to fix what's not working. So basically, what kind of processes should be there from the very beginning to avoid getting to the SaaS Institute at the very end?
No, of course. I mean, we talk with a lot of companies that they don't have this problem, right? But typically, it's like a tech founder or people that really focus on product or technology, and they lack this understanding. So they can learn, like there's a lot of books like Predictive Revenue from Aaron Rose, a typical one, and they understand the concept, but putting it in action, it's another thing, right?
Right.
And that's where we step in. So we don't do rocket science, right? We want them to understand it, to implement it, and then we leave. But to continue with your question, what should they do at the beginning? And there's several stages of it. I would say at the very beginning, what let's say, like you have a small company, you're starting, maybe you have a couple of customers or 10 customers, maybe you don't have any. It's very important, and this is a metric that will accompany the company, will accompany the business for a long time. It's to have opportunities. What does it mean? Opportunities or qualified opportunities. Nowadays means having a meeting with your customer, right? Having a conversation with a right person of a potentially target company that want to talk about that thing, right? They don't have enough of those. So either they try to send a immense email list. A couple of people answer. Normally the people that are early movers or the more tech oriented. So it's not a very good picture of the real market because it's only the two outliers that could answer. Or they focus on these people that I already talk with. Maybe they're from their network. They have from some partners, some introductions, some referrals, and they keep them in the pipeline. So they lack these new meetings with people. So let's say we want to try a new market. We want to try how real estate agencies do. And I think it's a good target for me. And send a bunch of emails, but then talk with any. That's a problem because I would have a fake image. What I would say is once they have, let's say, 10 meetings or 10 calls with 10 different companies in this sector, everything becomes clearer. And also they can know, okay, do I need someone that I can scale that can generate more meetings? Does it market is a good fit? Maybe they don't have the money. Do I arrive too early? So I would say you want to have conversations with your target market, and you have to know who your target market is, not a conversation with an insurance with this. So focus on one market and then try to have some conversations with those and then take a decision. Otherwise, it's very hard.
Right. I think it's very important what you said. There is a human being behind it because the ticket is high enough. And I had another founder here, and she was talking about exactly that. Like she wasn't able to, at first, get someone to talk to her about a product just because what she was selling was like $50, right? No one really wants to spend an hour talking to a founder that's selling a product for $50, right? When it's 5,000, 50,000, then it's a different story. Mm-hmm. But 50 is maybe too little of a ticket. So how high should be a ticket to expect someone to pick up and talk to you?
Okay, so the minimum amount that we see, and we work with several markets. So if we focus on Southern Europe, Spain and Italy, you could go as low as 2,000. So annual ticket, ARPA, annual revenue per account, or like an annual ticket that you have for one customer, will be as low as 2,000. When you go more Central European, maybe it's 5,000, 6,000. When you go more mature markets, maybe UK and US, they start saying 10,000, 15,000, right? But here is kind of a thumb rule. If you have a very fast market, you can lower your ticket. If you need a lot of meetings for a customer, it's not worth it. Not only because the customer will not want to talk to you, but mostly because if the CAC is too high. So if you have to have 2 meetings with one person for $100 per year, it just if acquiring a customer costs you 500 euros, you cannot and you earn 100 of them. Is a very big of a gap, right? You're just wasting 400. It might happen sometime in the past where it's very cash intensive and you invest of having these customers. In most businesses nowadays, this is not a winning formula. So only for the bare nature of we have to talk to our customers, you need a minimum ticket to make this process, no, like this human to human work for you. And then up to, I would say, 150,000 euros. After that, it starts being more like an enterprise selling. So it relies a lot of relationships, a lot of networking. It's a long time to earn this customer, a lot of conversation, a lot of stakeholders. And there the process starts changing. So I would say the range that we normally give is from 2 or 5 up to 100,000.
Okay. All right. And what exactly are the businesses that you're working with? What are the industries?
Okay, so there's a huge array of industries, and some companies are in other stages, right? But typically, is industries will have like a big customer base and a high enough ticket. For example, cybersecurity is a big one of our industries. Travel as well. We work with a lot of companies in the travel sector. A lot about customer insights or sales and marketing or tools as well. And then there's other analytics, let's say finance tools, real estate, HR. So there's several industries, right? People would say, no, if you only work with cybersecurity, if I have a CRM for hotels, it doesn't work. But surprisingly enough, and the business works very well because there's a lot of things that you can learn from other companies, and the system is pretty stable. So giving this range and this business, if you do outbound or like sales development as we do, it just works. So that's a big advantage for us and for all the companies implementing the system.
Okay. What would you say, like, based on your experience, what industry would you say is the easiest to onboard, to get somebody to pick up the phone, and what's the most difficult?
It's a very good question, and it's not always about industries, right? But I would say when you try to target either IT profiles, so developers, chief of cybersecurity, even some product people, that tends to be hard unless it's an agency that does it, and these are the people talking to customer, or when you try to go straight to C-level for big companies, right?
Okay.
You need to have a very intense strategy for that. You need to have a very clean messaging. You need to be pretty good. What's the easiest? I would say I've seen a lot of companies talking to HR departments or like companies so where the people are more open to talk and discuss, and let's say sometimes they have more time also with the public, with governments and the public sector. But then it's a double-edged sword, right? Because a lot of targets, so they have a lot of time, so they talk to you, but they don't have a lot of budget. So it's very easy to get this first meeting, but then it's very difficult to get them to sign. And on the other side, if you talk to developers and CEOs, it's pretty hard to get them on the phone and get a meeting with them. Once you got that, it goes very fast. It converts very well. So what we normally recommend is have a clear mapping and have a couple or 3 buyer personas potentially in the process, and try both of them. Try with the CEO, try to the head of, and then try to the end user and see where the technique works. Some people, for some people, it's very clear they have to go to the CEO. For some others, at the end user. But you have to have like let's say a different strategy or different approach for each of them.
Right, because one will be willing to talk, but a totally different person might actually have the decision power and the purchase power in the company, right? And it's funny that you said HR. I remember when I was just starting in marketing, there was an article about some sneaky marketing techniques that you can try, like how to get somebody to talk to you in a company if you're selling a B2B software. And it said HR because like HR's job, basically a part of their job, a big part of their job, is opening emails, seeing if if there is a great candidate for the job. So like write them an email and in the in the title say that you're applying for a job, but actually in the body of the email tell them what you actually want. So it was so sneaky, but honest to God, I tried it a few times and it worked. So yeah, it's funny that you said that. Okay,
Yeah.
on that was very interesting. So okay, let's get maybe a bit deeper into the whole process of streamlining the sales. So,
Mhm.
and I think what you talk about in terms of getting people to talk to you and making the sale person to person makes sense. But a lot of people don't know how to approach it, like how to find a lot of people to talk to, right?
Mhm.
How to make sure that you schedule not just 3 but 3,000 meetings per month. So what works for you?
Correct. Yeah, that's the issue. I think that's the question, Anna. And that's mostly the bottleneck of companies, right? It's not like how to get, okay, well, I did a demo and then people are not sure how I get them to close. Maybe you have a conversion rate from demo to one or to signing the contract of 10%, 20%, 30%, but it's very difficult to double that. It's very difficult to switch to 60% all of a sudden. What is much easier is having the double of these meetings, right? Given that the market is big enough. If you go to the top 10 companies of a country, it's a pretty hard. But again, if we're in the range of this ticket, that should happen, right? And that is the main challenge. So what do we want is to have a high amount of these meetings, of these demos, what we call qualified opportunities, but also the qualified part of them. So not any meeting. And there's two main ways of having this. First, we have to have a good list of leads, right? What would typically happen in a company is like, okay, we want to go to several markets. Let's scrap some list, have a list of 2,000 companies, some from this industry, some from like hotels, some are like marketing agencies, some are HR departments in big consultancies. And I feed them to my sales team. And then they have enough and say, well, and then they ask their salespeople, how are you not getting, let's say, 5 meetings a week if you have 2,000 leads? No, what's wrong with you? But then they don't realize the problem is a company problem, right? So I would say first thing, what a list of leads must have. First, we have to have a clear segment. So we have to know which market are we aiming to, right? And we have to make sure that it's kind of qualified. So if we're going to hotels, okay, what's the minimum amount of rooms that hotel might have? What's the region? What's the type of hotel? It's a high-end hotel or it's a cheap hotel? How many stars they have? This is a very important thing because the problems will be different and because then the salespeople can have a conclusion, right? I tried this list of high-end hotels with a lot of rooms. I struggle to close meetings, and the meetings are closed. They're not interested because they already have a solution, and they don't care about what we want to hear. That's very easy then to switch to turn. Otherwise, you might spend 4 months just targeting everyone and not knowing what works and what doesn't. So I would say first thing is having a very clear list and a very well segmented target. And the second thing I would say that it's key is to have it well organized, so not leaving it to chance. What happens to some sales teams as well? That okay, this week I search some companies. Next week I try to contact them, and then next week I do the demo, right? And then you have a metric. So this month we had a lot of demos and we closed a lot, and but the other month we just created a lot of pipeline because we are contacting.
Right.
That's yeah, that's what makes a company not predictable. So you kind of go with the flow, so to say. The sales team improvise because it's that I have a lot of work doing meetings now, so I cannot do the prospecting and reaching out to people. And then when I don't have meetings, I reach out. So what's key here and very easy to implement is to have not only goals in terms of meetings and in terms of closed customers, but having goals as well in terms of activity. So what we can actually control. So, okay, every week I start prospecting 20 companies, and at least I have to contact them, let's say, 5 phone calls, 3 emails, and 3 LinkedIn messages in the time span of 10 days. That's what's going to mark a difference, because then we can follow this consistency, and that's what will give us like a regular flow. So if we have a very good segmented list, and then we attack this list with a good system and consistently, I would say that's basically like that's the main levers. And now we have to do it properly. Of course, that's how we have companies work. But if you have these 2 things more or less well implemented, I would say the generation of opportunities shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. All right. So I want to ask about conversion, but another important question, and that gave me a bit of a throwback into my very early days in marketing, when I thought one email is enough. You just write 2 people, and it's bad manners not to reply, so one should be enough. And then my first manager was like, okay, but where is your second email? Where is your activation? Where is your email goodbye if they're not replying you for a month? And it was such a revelation for me, because I thought, oh my god, like people will not reply. Like how could that happen? So okay, how many emails are enough? When should you stop?
Okay, some people will argue that never. If it's a target market and you have a compelling message and you can help them, so if you segment it, it's never. But in terms of sales, so you have to know where to put the limit, right? Otherwise, you end up having like 1,000 leads that you're contacting in parallel. So that's
Yeah.
not healthy either way. So the difference with marketing, I would say, is like it's very automated. And normally you put in a sequence, and every month you send an email, which is all right. I think it's a great way of nurture the prospects and send them like relevant content and keeping them.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's the right moment, they contact you or you contact them. But in terms of sales, you have to put like a deadline, right? What we normally do is depends on the size of a company. For a smaller company, shorter. For like bigger companies, are longer. But I would say the time span between 1 and 4 weeks. So actively contacting a person in a company. And I would say what we normally do is like between 3 and 5 emails as well. Might be a bit
Okay.
more. Okay. The key here is normally what we say is like when you are prospecting, when you are trying to contact a person, don't use only the lever of email, because you have a person. So you're spending a lot of time and energy on that. Automating emails is easy, but we see that it works very well, the multi-channel approach. Which are the channels? Phone calls, email, and LinkedIn, right? It might be different with
Right.
some industries, other social media. Some industries are maybe more active in Instagram. In some regions, WhatsApp is more like popular than phone, but more or less these are the levers, right?
Right.
And there's some studies that show how many times we should insist. But if we send only one email and then let it go, or one phone call and then let it go, we're missing the chance. People are kind of like bombarded with messages. Now we have to understand the inbox of our buyer persona. Maybe they receive 10, 20, 30 cold emails per day like this one. So we have to be better and we have to be present. So the minimum amount that we say is like 10 times. You have to try to contact a person 10 times before letting it go, which could easily mean 3 messages in LinkedIn, 4 emails, and then the remaining of calls, no, 5 calls or 4 calls or something like that. So between 10 and 15 touches should be the minimum.
Right. Okay. And everyone's talking about personalization of
Mm-hmm.
cold emails or whatever it is. So, and I understand that personalization, like for customer, like B2C, is very different, but B2B, how personal can you be when you're selling to a company, to a business?
Okay, it's a very good question, and it is a hot topic because so what separates for me a good message and a bad message is this level of personalization, right? And what personalization means like this message could be sent to anyone and it would make sense, versus for what this message is mentioning, for what they're telling me, this message only makes sense to me. So basically people don't label it as spam. They say, okay, this is personalized. This works very well because it makes you be different. It makes you like be that spot in the Red Sea, right, in the Red
Right.
Ocean. So how your question, how we should personalize, right?
Right. Like, is it even possible to bring that personalization, to bring that personal touch, and to because you're sending an email, yes, to sometimes to a person, but sometimes to like the whole department, right?
Hmm.
So how do you work there?
Yeah. So what I would say is 100% right to a person. So talk to a person. So we sell to people, and the company is the one paying, right? But we're selling to people. That's where the B2B is happening. We're not selling to the company. That's where people get it wrong. Maybe you're selling to different people. The CEO wants something different, that the head of product wants something different, like the procurement person wants something different, but you still have to sell to them, right? So 100% personalize as you're talking to a person, and I would say be as personal as necessary, right? As relatable as necessary. If you, when companies say how I personalize, how I talk about my product and my project and the value proposition I can propose, for me the easiest trick that you can apply right now is don't talk about your product, don't talk about your company, don't talk about your benefits. When cold outreach mostly, but instead try to talk as you were a very similar company in the industry. So what a customer, like let's say a competitor of this company, would say when you interview them about the problems that your service or product solves. What would you say? No, it's very annoying because I have to download this sheet and then I have to send it to 4 people and I have to make them a reminder and reply. I know you automated everything in one click, but how does this look today for a potential competitor that is not using your solution? If you can get this level of detail, say, yeah, but when I send it to the head of HR, Michael, and he has to transmit to the 4 SDRs that we have, and then each of them send an email, and they have to relaunch in Slack. And don't be afraid to mention this Slack and Michael and 10 people, because that will make you more relatable. And an extra of that, if you can also like do some research on the company, mention where the person worked before, knowing what the responsibilities are, what characteristic of the product, whatever it makes them feel that you're sending this message to them and not just hello name. I see you work in company and in this role, which everyone knows is automated. You see, hey Michael, I see you work 4 years in Vodafone, and before you were head of product of this company before moving to Berlin. No,
Right.
that's gonna get their attention. So I would say
All
just go
right.
personal.
All right. Yeah, that's actually that's what I wanted to ask. Like, and again, the question is maybe um how personal is a bit too personal, because I also had a very weird email once when it was personal and very nice, to the point when they actually researched about my family on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, and then they posted something like, and something like happy birthday to your son, he's cute and stuff like that. And that was a bit of a like stalkery personalized. So that was a bit of a, I don't know, I'd say too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So yeah.
there are some cultural differences here, right? In the US, they would say this is perfectly fine, or there's a lot of people saying that you should go super personal because then they show that you are interested. Maybe in Central Western Europe, that's a bit creepy, I would say.
Yeah.
A very easy way to draw the line is whatever is in their LinkedIn profile
Mm,
or their website or the company report. So everything strictly professional, and let's say LinkedIn is still a professional network. So if you see they
right.
work here, they studied there, they live there, they posted something that they're walking with a dog and they like to do this meditation for the morning, but it's in LinkedIn, I would say it's nice to mention it. I would avoid going to their personal Instagram and checking it, right?
Yeah.
For some customers might work. So if you are like, for example, we work with influencer agencies and they work primarily in social networks, TikTok,
Right.
Instagram, etc. Then yes, because you know where the audience, we know, but that's their business. So it's not the personal realm; it's already their business.
Sure. Sure. The time and the place.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So let's get to activation. I mean, one thing is getting a person on the call, even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is converting them into a customer.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the, I don't know, of course, like there is no solution that fits all, but what's the like the little magic trick that maybe helps most of the companies that you're working with?
Yeah, this part is a bit more tricky because it depends on the sales process. But what we see that's mostly lacking, mostly in young companies that are used to receiving inbound or having the first customer as early movers or from the network referrals, is that then they don't qualify properly, right? And what do I mean by qualify? Asking the questions to the customer and tailoring your solution to the points that they have. Let's say we have 10 like value propositions of our product. Don't make like a 40-minute meeting talking 90% of the time and mentioning all 10 features, and then at the end asking, does it make sense? And they say, yeah. You have any questions? No. Okay, I'll send you a proposal. And then people say, wow, I sent like 100 proposals and only signed 3. How do I get them to sign? That's not the issue here. The issue is you
Right.
shouldn't send the proposal to the ones that didn't qualify. Okay.
Okay.
So the pro way of doing this here is, for every little step of your demo, let's say you have 10 features, you ask them, hey, right away, how many people are doing this task? Did you try in the past to implement something like this or not? No. Because why? How you do it? No, I have already an automation tool, and you know that this value proposition is not going to be relevant for them. So move to the next one, right? And if you present a feature, make sure it makes sense for them. And also, if you can put like a dimension behind it, if you get them to say, yes, this is a problem for me. Yes, this makes sense. And yes, I believe this will save 2 hours. This will save, I don't know, 5,000 euros on onboarding. This will save lowering the churn rate by 5%. Then is when we have a good hand to keep playing, right? Otherwise, it's just like spray and pray. You're dumping all your information.
Right.
And praying for the best. That's not like sales process. That's like kind of like a hope, let's say, hope management. No, I told them
Yeah.
everything. Let's see if it works.
So is it a bad sign if your potential customer doesn't have any questions at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Very
because
honest.
yes, also because a good seller will not like just tell them that this is a problem. Will ask how they do. Will maybe put an example of other companies and will validate them with them. This is a problem. So the good seller will not say this is a problem for you and we can help with the solution. Will help the customer say it to them. Like think about it and then say it, because once the person is saying it and agrees on that, people normally don't contradict themselves. So that's a very good key. How you do that? By controlling the narrative. How you control the narrative? By having questions, having scripted questions, not improvise. How are you doing this? No. You know that they might have a CRM, and you know that maybe sending the emails automatically might be a problem. That's the question we're going to ask, because our feature solves that. If I ask them this question, they don't identify with it, they don't think it's an important issue, we should move on. If they don't identify with any of those, they don't identify the pain, is not the right customer, I would say just don't move forward with the sales process, because you will send a proposal, you will go after a potential customer that was never a potential customer, that you should have disqualified 3 meetings ago. And I think
Right.
that's the major problem.
Okay. All right. So, one more question just about you, your personal kind of beliefs in the whole sales system. What's better in the long run, inbound or outbound?
Okay, it's a very good question. The good companies do both. Okay. And I
Yeah.
think it works in different stages. I would say outbound is a quick answer channel. So if we want to test something quickly, you want to have quick feedback. Feedback is very quick, but then it doesn't compound as much, right? So you can invest
Right.
like hiring 2-3 people, have quickly some meetings, but that normally tends to stabilize. If you invest in marketing, in content, and you get this inbound at the beginning, it will be very difficult. You have to iterate a lot. We'll have no answer maybe for 6 months, 12 months. But once you hit this lever, you not only capture the demand that you have, but you also generate some. So that's long scale. What companies that we work with normally do is at the beginning trust in outbound because they can test it quickly, and then start investing in inbound. If they can do both at the same time, that's great, because they work very well together. And a lot of times they work in the same department. But long term, you have to have a content strategy Otherwise, only if outbound. Well, maybe it's not the best growth. Let's say you're not creating much growth with that, but
Right.
still a great channel. We believe in outbound.
Okay, completely agree with you. No, I think having both is absolutely important because, like you said, it will not probably scale forever in the outbound, and at some point you have to give people the freedom to choose. Right? It's not you approaching them; it's they find something about you and think it's brilliant, and this is something they want to engage with.
The good thing about outbound is that you will know pretty quickly. So if you have you hit product market
Fit.
product market fit, hit product market fit. It's a bit. If you hit product market fit, they will let you know quickly. And if it stagnates and you go after the same people that they don't want to be talked, also the conversion rate will lower. So the best companies that I see them doing is they try outbound. They have a clear target market. They find the people in the target market. They find the message that's more relevant for them via outbound, so talking with them. And now they integrate them in their content campaigns, in the landing page. So you have a team of SDRs cold calling some people, and they have 2 or 3 killer sentences that the prospects identify with. That's the content. It's going to be pushed in your inbound campaigns. So it's a very good, starter, like to start the engine to quickly to know which content is relevant for your audience by talking with them and doing outbound. So I would say start with outbound, figure it out, and then start investing in inbound. It will go much faster.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And I have just one bonus question left. So, what do you think of all the marketing trends out there? What is the one that's going to make a difference for the businesses in 2023?
Oof. Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, and I've seen this going very good, the content generation. So you make your team create their own content. You make the team become maker influencers. I've seen this working very well. And once you start, let's say you have a team of SDRs, the junior people that do cold calling, outbound, etc., and they talk to customers all day long. They might not be an expert in the product, in the solution, how technically it's solved, but they are experts of how their buyer persona are dealing with it nowadays, how they're struggling with it. And that's a very interesting content for everyone. So once they start sharing this publicly, they become these experts. So leveraging this say social selling in a less aggressive way. So taking your sales team as part of your marketing strategy, I really like that, and I think it's working very well for some companies that are trying hard.
That was great. I really loved that vision. So thank you so much, Andreu. It's been great talking with you. I think what you're doing with the SaaS Institute and how vocal you are about it, how active you are on LinkedIn with, and like I mentioned in the very beginning, I went through pretty much all the posts on LinkedIn. Great source of knowledge. So, find them and just get in, just dive into there. And yeah, obviously, thanks for telling your story and sharing all the trends and tips and tricks of how to leverage and streamline the sales process.
Thank you, Anna, for having me. And for anyone listening, if you want to connect with me in LinkedIn or follow, it will be my pleasure to have a conversation. So you can find me on Andreu Iglesias or the SaaS Institute. It will be a pleasure. Thank you, Anna.
Awesome. Thank you and take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.